Hello, thank you for joining me today. I am off for a little walk right now. I'm just kind of checking things out, and I had to go get my tripod, so I needed to take, um, I just took the long way getting my tripod, and I'm going for a little walk. So um, I wanted to see how my round pen was, and because I really want to work in there so badly. I'm so tired of being inside, and I'm super excited to get outside and have a place to work. So I'm just checking out the footing, seeing how it is, because I'm really excited to turn horses up into this area so and get them out of the muck. But I want this to be dry because I don't want to go and get this all mucked up. So the best thing I can do is just wait a little bit longer. It'd help if we could get a nice sunny day. It's 40 here right now, and it's supposed to be 40 here for like another week and a half, which is a bummer. So, okay. Hello. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Lily. Hi, Hoot Owl. Hoot Owl Holler. I always get confused with your name. I'm so sorry. So, if you're new here, my name is Brandy, and I am doing live stream videos Monday through Friday, as long as this whole coronavirus deal is going on. Clover always comes and finds me. Beck, do not say that word. That is a bad, bad word. Banned from my channel. Beck just said snow. Snow is not allowed after May. It shouldn't be anyway. But unfortunately, that's what happens. Hi, Tracy. Thanks for joining. But yeah, so I'm bringing you videos as often as I can. On the weekends, you're going to be getting edited videos, and until I'm back to work, I'm going to bring these live stream videos. It's like she wants to just like crawl into your skin. She can't get close enough. But oh, so needy. All right, so let's go for a walk. Hey, and I want to tell you guys too, there's been some problems. I don't know what in the world is going on with YouTube, but a bunch of comments keep getting deleted. I don't understand why. So if you are involved with the live chat and you comment and your comment is deleted, unless you said something mean or are swearing at me or something, or it's spam, your video or your comment should not be deleted. So Beck is on here as a moderator, and she's watching out for nasty comments and spammy stuff, but YouTube has been removing comments that shouldn't be an issue at all. So don't worry if you see that your comment has been removed. It's not us removing it, it's YouTube for some reason. So I apologize for that. Who knows why? Who knows what's going on? So, all right. Clover's hunting over in the junk pile. Bunch of old boards and stuff. So, Kathy, there's really only been a couple, and as far as nasty comments, there was somebody that said some things in a different language that I didn't know what they were saying, but you could translate it, and somebody translated it. Apparently wasn't nice, but whatever. It is what it is. People are gonna do that. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Donna. Now that everything is thawing, all the gates are shifting, everything's all wonky. It's kind of a mess. I got a poop pile I gotta get rid of. I got lots of poop piles to get rid of. It's just kind of a thing. All right. So while you guys are here with me, I'm gonna be working while I'm live streaming today. I'm gonna be working too. I got so much stuff to do. So I'm gonna tell you guys some stories. Today is a special day, and the reason I chose to talk a little bit about Poco today is because it is his birthday. It would have been his birthday. And so it's always a special day for me, and yeah, so I'm gonna do my best. So I figure if I work while I'm talking, it'll be a lot easier for me, and I won't get so upset about it. So, hey, Bear. It's Mr. Bear. No Tova shows today, I don't think. Oh, and there's Manzer. You guys can kind of see how Manzer and Bear are doing with Nika standing right there. We are on, today is 8 days of weaning, and it's going pretty good. So, gosh, I got 2 cats here, and I've got all the ducks. You see all the ducks right there? So, so many critters. My parents stopped by today, and we went for a walk. You know, kept our distance, of course, and it's the first time my dad's left the farm, their farm, in 2 months, so it's kind of, you know, a big outing for him. But so we walked around. The kids rode their bikes. It was nice to get to see them finally. But we had a puppy, we had German Shepherd, we had all the ducks, we had some chickens, we had Louise with, we had the horse. I mean, it was like everything, all the critters were with us. And my dad's like, my gosh, it's like being with the Clampetts. So if you've never seen the Beverly Hillbillies, you wouldn't understand, but it's pretty much how it is around here. So we love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. So, so what I'm gonna do is, gosh, I have a lot happening. I gotta check out some things. So I'm just gonna take you guys with me, talk as I go. I'm so happy that Nika is standing at the gate quietly. She's not calling for Manzer much anymore. It's just occasional. This whole week of weaning has been pretty hard on me. And you'll see, I videoed the whole thing, and you guys will see the whole process of weaning and kind of my thoughts on the whole deal and how I approached it. So, Sarah, I'm confused. What is a good age for kids, you said, to start riding? You'll have to elaborate on that a little bit more. I start kids in my program as young as 2. So, but it really depends on the instructor. I wouldn't let, like, I'll personally work with kids that young, and it depends on the kid, but I don't allow, like, my other instructors to work with kids under the age of 6. So, if that's what you're asking, I hope that's what you're asking of horses. What's my youngest age of horse? I don't know, I'm confused. So you'll have to clarify on that. Okay, I'm just gonna go out here and check. I wanna look around. This is my training pen that I'm in. Oh, my water tub's overflowing. We'll have to go over there in a minute. This is my training pen, and I have a horse. I actually have a horse coming for training for a student that I agreed to take, but I said I would not take him until this pen is dry. It's a little squishy yet, so we got a little bit to go, but at least all the snow is gone. But if I put a horse in here the way it is, it's just gonna get mucked up right away. So I don't wanna put a horse in here yet. And I got quite a bit of fence down from the amount of snow that we got early in the year. And yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of work to get it fixed because it's that no climb fencing. It's kind of a pain in the butt to fix. So, so somebody's asking what age horse I would recommend for a teenager. It depends, 100% depends on rider's abilities and the horse. How much experience does the horse have? I have a general rule when people are shopping for horses. I have a general rule that the horse's age and the rider's age needs to equal at least 20. Unless there's, you know, the rider is really experienced or something like that, or the rider is always working with somebody, you know, a trainer, then it's a little bit different. And occasionally I'll kind of bend on those rules a little bit. All right. Set you guys down here while I swap out some water tubs. This is actually really convenient I'm carrying this huge tripod around, and it's actually easier. So the good news is you guys see that? Look at this right here. You know what that is? That's dry dirt. Dry dirt is a wonderful thing to be seeing right now. And now the reason that, you know, the back of the pastures are dry, and that's really nice. The horses really like to hang out up here, and this is where their hay boxes are. So the reason I put their hay boxes up here is because I don't want to go driving around with my side-by-side and spinning up the muck. I've learned a lot about feeding horses in a wet environment and how to do it so the horses aren't standing in mud. Now the nice thing is these horses, they all have dry legs. And a few years ago, that wasn't the case, because what I would do a few years ago is I used to have my hay boxes spread all over the pasture, and that's what I prefer, because I really love for horses to have to move all the time for their food, because that's what they do in the wild. They're always on the go for food and water. So right now what I have is I've got my hay boxes right up close to my water tubs, and I don't like that because they can stand here and eat and then walk 50 feet and get a drink of water, where I would rather them have to be way on the other side of the pasture and then have to walk all the way over here to get a drink, because it's so much healthier for them. The more movement that a horse gets, the healthier they are. But not in mud season. Mud season, to me, I believe it is, from my personal experience, it is better to keep my hay boxes up front, all these feeders, and just drive on this area, and the horses primarily hang out in this area, and let that ice build up underneath what I call the poop carpet. It's totally gross, but it is what it is. In the winter here, there's no way of cleaning up manure because it freezes the minute it touches the ground. So, but what that does is it makes it so the horses have a solid surface to be on while all the mud is drying. So they head back out in the pasture where it's nice and dry when they don't want to be up here eating. And when they're standing here, they're standing on, it is a layer of poo, but it's dry on top. So I don't have to worry about, like, the horses, I'm not worried about scratches or anything like that, because my horses are not actually in standing water. So, we've got this river that runs through here, of course, but it pulls all the water to one spot. So it's pretty awesome. For living in a wet area, I think we got it figured out. We're making progress every single year. Let's put it that way. Now, Nika, on the other hand, you can see that her feet are a little bit on the dirtier side. But you know what she's been doing? She's been back and forth, kind of pacing around, because she's still worried about Manzer. So she's walking around. She doesn't care what she's walking around in. She's upset. So it's just kind of how it is right now. But everybody else has been kind of standing where it's dry. Like if you look at Rosie, she's itching right now. If you look at Rosie, her feet aren't muddy at all. She's got a little bit of poop on her hooves, but it's no big deal. Not worried about that. I don't have to worry about her having scratches or anything like that. Scratches is terrible, and now she's going to lay down in the poop. But it's dry, and that's the thing, is they don't care. It's a dry area to lay on. You just got to kind of take what your environment dishes out. The way I look at it is, sure, we get mud pretty seriously in the spring and in the fall, but the rest of the year it's really nice. It is super nice here in the summer. We do get a lot of bugs, so that's a bummer, but we get like flies and mosquitoes and wood ticks. I can deal with that. What I can't deal with are things that kill people like scorpions and deadly spiders and that kind of stuff, or snakes. It's different. So I would much rather deal with a ton of snow and some mud versus having my barn torn apart by a tornado, or get stuck in the middle of a hurricane, or worry about getting bit by something that's poisonous. So that's the way I look at it. Yes, Tracy, I think Australia is out for me. But now Nika is frustrated. She's like, I just want to come in. And see, here's the thing, is Nika's been coming in and spending all day in the barn. I've had a routine going with her and Manzer. They've been alternating, and one of them's been in a stall pretty much at all times while the other one's out, and then I switch them. And Nika, she's like, but I'm supposed to be in the barn during this time of day, having my own hay bag and having my grain to myself. And I think she's kind of getting used to that. So she's just wanting to come in. No big deal. I'm going to let her in a little bit and I'll show you. But so yeah, they're handling it well. I'm happy. So somebody's asking me about blanketing horses. And if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you kind of know my take on it. So my suggestion is to go and check out my playlist, Caring for Horses. I have a video in that playlist that is dedicated just towards my opinion on blanketing horses, and because I don't want to use up this video on talking about something that I've already covered, when I can just redirect you to there. So while I've got the water tub filling, I'm going to get Nika some grain in her stall. So we're going to go up here. I'm just going to kind of plop you guys down, hope you don't mind, and get some work done. I got so much to do. So, and you guys can kind of see some of the stuff that I do. I got my, oh look, here's my hay. Litter in there. We go through 10 square bales a day, and they weigh about 70 pounds. So roughly 700 pounds of hay a day. And so yeah, I am strong like bull. Now typically when I'm walking through the barn, you guys can't hear me. So, there, okay. Linda, our hay is just a Timothy grass mix. I avoid alfalfa because I've got some horses that can't handle it. So, all right, I'm gonna just leave you guys right here for a moment, and I'm gonna bring Nika in, put her in her stall, and then I gotta shut off my water tub and stuff. So I'll be right back. Oh, and hey guys, here's what I want you to do. So we're going to be talking about Poco today, and what would be best for me is if you guys could think of all the questions you might have about him, so I can just start answering questions about him on it, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Okay. Got my stool, my bucket. Oh, good, Madeline. Using rope halters is a really good idea. Rope halters are a very handy tool. Definitely. Wait a second here. Is Poco the only horse that you've had that could canter and hobbles? No, Poco was never hobbled. Never once in his life. Now that was annoying. So sorry about the interruption, guys. So yeah, I gosh darn it. My phone just froze. Are you kidding me? It's 40 degrees out and my phone just froze. It's annoying. So I apologize for that. So I hope everything's going okay now. Yeah, I'm back. So I'm really glad that I didn't have to redo the whole thing and like make a part 2 for it, because that is such a bummer when that happens. So I hope everybody's able to see everything now. Okay, so I'm all plugged into the battery, but that shouldn't have happened. I had a brand new like full battery. So, but it is cold, so that's what happens. Now here's a concern of mine, guys. With I just got my mic and I'm really excited, and Jason's trying to figure it out. It won't work for some reason. Of course, because that's what happens. Guys, I really have bad luck, and it is what it is. So, but just trying to get the mic to sync up and work. So, hopefully, I can use that sometime in the next couple of days. But what's kind of a bummer is with using that, it may be something that I only be able to use in the summer and do it short, because I can't plug in the mic and the battery to my phone. So that's a bummer, because I have so many issues. My phone dies within, this was only going for 20 minutes and it died. And that's just not, it shouldn't die that quickly. So that is a concern of mine. So I got to figure that out. So if anybody has any ideas, please let me know. Okay. How old was Poco when he passed? Poco was 26, the same age as Miss Kitty. The most joyous thing about him, was his ability to just, he was like, okay, and it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome, because no matter what, he just was always like super mellow. Like, do you have any friends or relatives or anything that's like they always just are kind of like calm and easygoing? That was him. So no matter what, he was just always chill, and so it kind of like brought everybody else down to being chill, and I like that a lot about him. And he was always like, hey, how's it going, and sometimes I guess like I would compare him to Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, but he wasn't like a downer, he was like a happy Eeyore. If that even makes any sense. Yeah, so it was really great. I think that when I was younger, if I would have had a horse more like Nika, it would not have been good, because she's got a personality a lot like mine. Like, if I were to compare myself to any horse in my pasture, it would be Nika and Blossom. So like that would be me. So yes, Missy, yep, you were the one whose tail always fell off. And Poco had a lot of bad luck. Like, he always had bad luck. So that's kind of why I say that. So he didn't have a bad, like, he didn't have like a bad outlook at things. He just was kind of like, oh, bother, that just happened kind of deal, So Poco was Poco Bueno bred, and so he was foundation quarter horse, and Poco Bueno was on his papers. So it was pretty cool that that we had such amazing bloodlines so close. Now, somebody just asked if I ever had the chance, would I breed Poco and Miss Kitty? No, not even. They're not even remotely close to being an appropriate match at all. So, um, do I do I wish that I could have bred Poco? Sure, he was gelded when he was 6 months old, so he was really he was really young when he was gelded, and so he didn't have any, like, with some geldings you have to worry about them being what's called proud cut, where they kind of have a steady nature to them, and that was never a concern with Poco. This kind of gelding, he was an awesome gelding. Oh yeah, he passed in 2012. Um, he was we got him when he was 4, and my mom used to find horses that were for sale cheap, and she would put time into them, put the miles on them, and then find appropriate people to buy them. That's how that was kind of her job. So it was time for me to get another horse. I needed something that was bigger, like an actual horse, not a pony. And um, she came across Poco and another horse named Skip, and he um, he had hardly any training whatsoever on him, so he was very, very green. And my initial thought of him was, we walked into this barn, and I'll never forget the very first moment I saw him. He was standing in a stall that had a dirt floor, and so it was kind of like they kind of get like dug out. I was 10 years old, and he stuck his head over the stall door, and it had, just the bottom part, like the Dutch type doors. He stuck his head over the door, and I saw him, and I was like, oh, he's really small. And I really had my heart set on like something huge. I wanted this big horse for probably because I only rode ponies up to that point. I rode a lot of other horses, I owned ponies. I'd had a couple ponies. And so I really wanted a bigger horse at that point in my life. And I've got chickens like fighting over here, and it's really funny. So that's why I'm distracted with what's going on over here. I apologize. But I was torn between like getting this huge horse, like, because one of the horses we went and looked at was 16 hands, and it was all when we went to look at him, the owner thought it was all impressive to like shoot a gun off of him, because that's what he did. And so he showed us that and showed us some other things that this horse did, but this horse was huge, and I really liked this horse because of its size. I just thought it was really cool, and I thought it was cool that the guy could shoot a gun off of it and stuff. But I think like within a couple weeks, the horse died for some reason, like colic or something. So I guess it was good that we didn't get that one. But we looked at quite a few horses for me, and so yeah, so it was like I want something huge. I thought that it would be really amazing to have an Arabian. I wanted this is Cobby. Somebody's asking about what cat that is. That's Cobby, and so I thought it'd be really cool to have. I wanted a black Arabian because, of course, like the black stallion was like a thing. So I thought it would be awesome to get an Arabian. So here I was on like two ends of the spectrum. I didn't really know what I wanted. I just wanted a horse. I was ready for something. But Poco, the first look at him, and he had no forelock. His forelock was like this little tuft of hair, and he just was not impressive looking at all. And then he came out of the stall. We brought him out, saddled him up, and we were gonna ride him. And he just was kind of like, he wasn't really impressive looking to me. He had a huge butt, humongous rear end on him, big old butt, quarter horse butt. But the rest of him, he was just kind of like, like he just wasn't developed yet, and he wasn't muscled up. He hadn't been ridden, and so I got on him and rode him around, and he didn't know anything. Like, he was quiet and gentle, but he didn't know anything. So, is the cat going to check the chickens? No, the chickens would whoop the tar out of her. The chickens don't put up with stuff. So somebody just asked that. So anyway, I rode him around for a few minutes, and I'm like, I don't really like him. And so my mom's like, well, if you don't like him, she's like, I'm still going to buy him. Western saddles, wool, stable blankets. Those are pretty pricey themselves. Plus a couple hundred bales of hay, bridles, brushes, you name it, everything for $1,000. And it was like a deal of the century. And so, but this gal knew that my mom was on it and would actually like take the horses, work with them, and train them, not just pedal them off. So we get the horses home, and my mom spends, and this was October, got it in October of 1990, and my mom spent that fall working with them, just a couple weeks to a month on him of riding, and then I rode him again, and I was like, oh my gosh, I like him so much. Like, all he needed was just to understand how to go forward and that sort of thing. Like, I didn't really mind that he didn't neck rein or anything like that. I didn't need any of that stuff. I knew how to work on all that, but just the fact that he just like didn't even know how to give to a bit to go anywhere was, I didn't understand how to teach that stuff at that time. So I took the winter just getting to know him. We couldn't really ride much because we didn't have an indoor arena, and we get 6,000 feet of snow a year. So there really wasn't a lot of places to ride. But I don't remember if it was the first year or if it was after that, but my mom trained him to pull a sleigh with her horse Missy. And Miss Kitty, like I said, I don't remember if it was the first, I think it was the second year we had him. But so going into the first year with him, I really wanted to learn how to ride English. So I got to take a couple of English lessons. I took 3 English lessons with my 4-H leader. Those are the only lessons I ever had as a kid. And I was going to show everything with this horse. So I was going to do, I didn't want to do halter because he wasn't a halter horse, like built to be a halter horse, and I'd have to show against adults and stuff. But I did showmanship, which is also called fitting and showing. I did English pleasure and English equitation. I did Western pleasure and horsemanship and trail class, and I also did all the speed events. Now, I went from being very competitive on this pony that I had. I mean, I would win high points at all the shows. I mean, I beat all the adults. I had a fast pony, and I competed in all the speed events. I didn't really do all the other stuff. It wasn't my interest. So with Poco, though, my mom told me, she's like, this horse is built to run. And if you want a serious speed horse, this is one that is going to be able to do it for you. She said, but his brain is the most important thing that we need to focus on. And she's like, you're not going to take him out and go out and just blow him up on these barrels and get him so he's just thinking about running all the time. And it was probably the most important thing that my mom ever taught me to do with horses. And so the first year I did all the stuff and I didn't place in anything, and I hated it. It's like I'm changing my outfit every half an hour for a different event, and I'm just not doing well. And our very first English class, I had never ever shown English before in my life, and I go out in this English class and I'm all like kind of self-conscious about it because I didn't understand it well anyway. Like, I wasn't good at it yet, and or I didn't really understand everything to do with it, so I was a little uncomfortable. I was out of my element, and at 10 years old, I pretty much thought that I knew everything. So I apologize if it's buffering at all. Lily just told me that it's buffering, so if you guys could let me know if it sounds okay on your end, that'd be really great. But so my very first English class, as soon as the judge asked us to canter our horses, he went right into a big old buck and tossed me off over his head. So yeah, that was my experience with that was my experience in my first English class and my first show on my first like big horse. So that was horrible, and I didn't handle it well. I'm pretty sure that I like got up and slugged him in the nose. Pretty sure that's what I did, and totally not proud of that now. Totally wouldn't do anything like that now, but for a 10-year-old kid who thinks that they know everything and then just gets dumped off in front of people and is totally embarrassed, that's how I handled it. And so yeah, that's a teachable moment, and I learned a lot from that. And I definitely tell that story to my students, and I'm like, yeah, it's not how you handle getting bucked off. Instead, you get up off the ground and you brush yourself off and you get back on your horse and carry on. So anyway, I did finish out the day. So I got back on my horse and I rode and I finished out my day, and it was fine. So the whole show season was kind of like I didn't get bucked off anymore. That's the only time he's bucked me off. I think that was the only time that's the only time my whole life that he ever bucked me off. Now he's bucked off. I've had somebody on the back riding double, and he's bucked and tossed them off, but I stayed on. But that's the only time he ever bucked me off. And so the whole first show season, I was just like, boo, this is lame. You know, I'm not doing good in anything. I'm on a green horse who doesn't know anything, you know, because he was only 5 then by that time. And so, but what I was doing is I was learning how to train a young horse. And yes, Dragon with Coffee, Poco was in a movie. I'll get to that. That's a good story. Thanks for bringing that up. So the second year now, things started to change a little bit. I actually started to place in things. And I actually placed in like everything except for speed events, which was a total bummer for me because that's all I actually wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything else. And okay, my husband just texted me. He fixed the microphone. That's exciting. Awesome. So what he should do, Jason, if you're watching this, what you should do is you should come out here and you should give it to me and we can see if we can figure it out to see if people can hear. But anyway, okay, sorry guys. So the second year I was placing pretty decent in like showmanship, you know, the pleasure class, English classes, trail. I started doing pretty good. And I was like, okay, this is going okay. And then I get to the speed events and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I'm like trotting through the pattern. I'm used to flying full speed. I wasn't even allowed to run him at home. Like I couldn't run him on the trail. I couldn't do any of that. My mom would not let me. But here's why. My mom learned the hard way because her horse Missy, who she had from birth, she started as a 2-year-old and she started barrel racing her like that next season. So, and she started running her. So Missy was always pretty hyped up and she didn't take the time and do it slow. And if you look at a lot of barrel racing horses, that's how they are. And it's really sad to watch because it's very preventable. But it takes time, and a lot of times people don't have the patience it takes to have a barrel horse that has a level head and actually enjoys their job. They just get out there and whip it and spur it and make it for a fast time. And that's not what my mom wanted me to have. So she wanted me to have a good, sound, reliable, level-headed horse that I would have for the next 22 years. And that's what I had. So at the end of the second show season, so here I am, I'm out there trotting and cantering. I was allowed to like canter on the way back from the patterns, but I had to trot everything else for 2 years. So, but at the last show of the season, or second to last, I should say, my mom says to me, as I'm going to the gate, like she didn't even give me a heads up that this was going to happen, but as I'm going into the gate for barrels, which was my thing, and my horse knew the pattern perfectly because he's been trotting it for 2 years, my mom says to me, she goes, go out there and kick some ass. And I was just like, oh, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, go do it. Oh my gosh. We ran like mad and it was amazing. And I'm pretty sure I won the class. And then we had the, hi.
I was watching you online and I saw Woody biking back.
Oh, did you? So it was amazing. So I was like 12 then. I was 12 years old. So at both fairs then, our county fair and our state fair, I got to run. And that was pretty much like the best way to end that season because it gave me, like, I was so excited. Why are you riding your brother's bike?
I don't care.
Hey, would you shut the water off for me? I forgot about it and it's overflowing. Thanks, honey. Okay, no, just shut it off right here, baby. You can go pull it out too, but shut it off first so we don't run water everywhere. So that was like one of the most memorable days of my life. And so that whole like next year then, I won everything. And my mom also told me, she's like, okay, you don't have to do as much of the slow stuff. Like, you don't have to do showmanship. And I was just like, oh, thank you, because I don't like it at all. It was just torture. But it was good for me because I had to learn the patterns, even though I went out there and I was like, totally didn't like try at all. I think about myself as a kid and I wish I could go back and just kick myself in the pants because I was just such a turd. But like, you know, with Tova, I try to find ways to make it so she's like, okay, you know, okay, you can do this, but here's what you have to do in order to do that, and we're gonna do it right. Where me, I just went out there and like drug my horse around and trotted like half-heartedly. It was just terrible. So, feed them and lead them. That's a really good way of saying it. Cats are us. So yeah, it's just not my thing. It's not my thing. I need speed and action in my life. And so I think I still did some I did English still. Yes, I did, because I remember I wore the same pair of English breeches from the time I was 10 years old till I was like 16. So I was super skinny. And the thing is like the pants just kept getting shorter. But the English boots were tall enough that you couldn't tell that my pants were way, you know, like 10 sizes too small. So it was really funny. But I kept doing English, and I may have done some Western pleasure and stuff just to keep him really like quiet. And I know I didn't do too much because I didn't want him tired by the time that all the speed comes along. So I was at our state fair, and I like smoked everything that day. Like I won everything. And it was great because you know, there's a ton of people at state fair. It's a big event. And Gal was in charge of the our quarter horse youth team in, you know, our area, for the upper Michigan. She approached me and she said, hey, have you ever thought of joining the American Quarter Horse youth team to go to Congress? And I said, no, I don't know what that is. And so she filled me in on it a little bit. Basically, Quarter Horse Congress is held in Columbus, Ohio, and it's the largest single breed. Don't pick on him. It's the largest single breed. So my kids last week, they lost a week of screen time because they did something that they were not supposed to do. So I pulled away, like, no screens whatsoever. So they can earn points to play this game that they like on the iPad. And I'm a stickler for screen time as it is. And then they get to occasionally watch a cartoon. So I, like, flat out, I'm like, 1 week, no screen time. So they get nothing besides, like, the homeschooling stuff that they're doing. No TV, no nothing. So anyway, yeah, she keeps that up. She's getting another week, and she knows she gets it back tomorrow, so she doesn't want to mess around. Give him his bike back. Don't worry about it. Give him his bike back. So, sorry about that. The live stream, you guys get everything. So, but anyway, with Quarter Horse Congress, I was like, well, yeah, that sounds really cool. And so I talked to my parents about it, and I was 14 at the time. And no, I was 13. and we had never left the state before. So it was like a big deal for us to go to Ohio. And thanks, honeybee. But, uh, um, yeah, my kids, they know that, like, I follow through. I don't care who's watching. I will follow through and take away their stuff. um, Horses, kids, dogs, I don't care what it is. You have to follow through. Otherwise, they just, like, run your life. So we thought about it, and I qualified. So I qualified for Quarter Horse Congress. I made the youth team, and we went. So that was the big first family vacation. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. We had a great time. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, it was just totally new for me to do something like that. And I would love to have, yeah, Bodie's not riding his bike without his helmet. He knows that. But that's why his bike is parked right there. So, but, and I didn't get to go again, but at least I got to go that one time. So the only buckle I ever won was, and I didn't win it, it's just from being on the youth team, is my Quarter Horse Congress buckle. And I'm very proud of that, because that was pretty amazing to be able to do such a wonderful thing. And so the following year, I remember I was 14 or 15, and I was at a horse show, and I went and I remember I did everything that day, and I placed really well in the English classes and the Western classes. And Poco was a 14 two-hand bay, beautiful blood bay quarter horse. Definitely not, yeah, I can show you the Congress buckle, I just can't right now because it's not here. But, so yeah, definitely will. But, so, if you're familiar with Western Pleasure and hunt seat and all that, you know that a 14 two-hand quarter horse really doesn't fit the bill for that kind of stuff. But I'm talking like our local circuit, which was pretty small.
Mommy,
Yes.
I think you should do one video where you take like all the manes and tails and like all the like horse bones and teeth.
Those things, and show that kind of stuff.
And you show like the things of horses that died.
Yep, a morbid video. We'll do a morbid video at some point. I have things that I use for horse camp for teaching kids about certain things like skeletal parts and stuff. So, but we'll get into that another time. So anyway, so I'm at this show and I did everything all day, and we did really well. Like, it was getting to the point where everything, like, the year-end awards would come along, and if the kitty doesn't want to be held, though, no, I know she's huge. The year-end awards, like, I would make out pretty good. Like, I was getting plaques like crazy in all these different events. It was really fun. But at this particular show, so I did all these things, and then I go into the arena for barrels, and the judge looks at me. Like, I'll never forget the look that the judge gives me, and he says, "That horse isn't gonna run." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Just watch." So I had an amazing ride. That kind of stuff really encourages me to do better. So that's all you got to tell me, is that I can't do something and watch me. So I had a 15.2 second barrel run. And when I finished, the judge looks at me and he's like, "I was definitely wrong." And so yeah, I won that, and I'm pretty sure that I won the high point at that show for that. But that horse, man, he was so quick. But it was a different kind of, like, he was really good. He had a great takeoff, and he had a really long stride, a lot of length to him, and when he took his corners, he kind of sat down. It was cool. It was really cool. So yeah, the picture that's on the video thumbnail, that's Poco, and that was actually our very last time barrel racing was that picture, and that was in 2008. He was 22 at the time. But so moving on then, oh gosh, so that was our summer every year, is I would go to all these events and barrel race, and we didn't have any rodeos in our area at that time, and traveling to rodeos just wasn't an option for me. So I stuck with all of the local shows and our fairs and everything that I could go to, and he was just really solid. We always did so well. He was such a good boy, and I did so many dumb things with him. Like, I think about the things that I did, and I'm like, oh, I'm so lucky that I had such a good horse to grow up with, because he tolerated a lot. My best friend, let me think. So I was probably 13 or 14, and my, okay, I gotta answer this question that somebody's asking, is what are block tails? Block tail is a injection that they do in the top of horses' tails for events such as like Western Pleasure and stuff, where they'll make it so the horse can't lift its tail. So the horse's tail lays down, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Things that they do to horses to make them look better for a particular type of show is not good. So, but yeah, they basically would paralyze the tail so they couldn't lift it, so it looked better in the show ring. So anyway, but my best friend bought a horse from my mom when we were like 13, 14, something like that. She was a year older than me, and she just lived down the road. So she would come over, we'd saddle up our horses, and we would go for a ride. And this one particular day, like, my mom always told me, she's like, I'll trust you until you give me a reason not to. And one of the things that meant is, don't let your horses come home without you. Don't do anything stupid, and you'll be fine. So, oh, Bodie just fell. I gotta tell you guys what he did. He's trying to tinkle behind a tree over there, and he caught me looking at him, and he tried to move, and he tripped over his pants are down around his ankles, and he tripped and he fell. Oh. So anyway, oh gosh, he should go put his helmet on. Bodie, go put your helmet on. Go put your helmet on. See, he can't even pee without getting hurt. So anyway, my best friend and I, we both got, how did it work? She got an English saddle for like Easter or something. And so we were gonna pretend that we were jockeys. And there's this big field, her grandparents' field is next door. So like her grandparents lived like between my parents and her parents. So it was great because all the property, we could just do whatever we wanted. And I don't know, Jason, what are you sending me? So, Jason's sending me stuff. I can't look at it. But anyway, so we have we have these English saddles on. We have the stirrups jacked up as high as they'll go. And we're like, let's go be jockeys. So we are ripping around this field. And she's on the outside, I'm on the inside. And there is a low-hanging branch. And we're coming around this corner. We were coming in hot. We were like flying around this corner, and then it was like, oh crap, branch. And I like ducked and tried to get off to the side, and there was no saving her at all. And that branch just took her off. I mean, she did a backflip off her horse at a full gallop, and she landed, and nobody wore helmets then, so it just wasn't a thing. So no, we were not wearing helmets. I can't believe we lived through the things that we did in our childhood. And so then for me, I'm like, oh no, if he goes home without us, I'm gonna be in deep trouble, and I'm not gonna be allowed to do this kind of stuff anymore. So I go flying across the field after her horse. Well, first I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm good, go get the horse. So I take off and I go to get the horse, and we're 2 fields away from my parents, so I didn't have a lot of time to catch him before he got home. But luckily my horse was faster, so here I am, English saddle, stirrups like all the way up, flying as fast as I can through the field, ducking and diving around trees, and I like grab onto his reins and stop him. Oh my gosh. So anyway, we made it back home, and I don't think we told anybody about that because I didn't want to get in trouble. But so that was my childhood though. Like I grew up on that horse doing everything. And I'll tell you, like, I have so many stories about him, but he pulled a sleigh. My mom had she had a little kind of business, she's boarded horses for years, and she's trained horses and given lessons and stuff, but in the winter, you can't really do much. So she would do sleigh rides. And I remember she charged $20, and we would go out for he was like an hour-long sleigh ride, and she could fit, I think, 12 people on the sleigh. And we'd go out every day with the sleigh, so it was a really nice groomed trail. And there was a chain off the back, so my best friend and I would ride in the sleigh, and then we would jump off the back and we'd hold onto the chain and drag behind the sleigh. It was awesome. And but we did that, every day for many winters. That was kind of the thing. As long as the weather was appropriate for it, we were out there, and my horse was in the best shape too. He was in such good shape. And I don't remember what year it was. Well, it was when Nika was young, because I was riding Miss Kitty and I was ponying Nika. So Nika must have been a 2-year-old. So I'm guessing this was about 2002 was the last time that Poco pulled the sleigh, and we had a really big wreck, really bad wreck. It was awful. So, and that'll be a whole nother, I could tell that'll be a whole video. It's just that story. That was insane. Maybe I could get my mom to join in on that one with me, because that was pretty big. That was a pretty big one. But so that was the end of Poco's sleigh pulling career. But that was his thing though, is he was so gentle and so quiet about so many things, but there were things missing with him, as far as I was talking in one of my videos where I was hobbling horses, and how important it is to find all these things that really horses are not okay with, and teach them to be okay with it. And so Poco would really kind of panic over certain things. He'd pull back while tied and that kind of stuff. And it got worse over time, but I didn't know how to fix that stuff. So, hindsight's always 20/20. You see what my kid's doing back there? She has chicken feed and hammer, and she's pulverizing chicken feed for Louise. That's what farm kids do. So all these things that I never did with him, and by the time that I was, hobble training and all that, I didn't want to do that with him, just because I knew how he would react to it, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want to go there. I just said, I will. Going forward, every horse I have, I'm going to really dive into that kind of stuff and make sure that they're okay with everything. But with him, I'm like, well, I'm just going to let him be the way he is, and I'll prevent those things. So, what?
Can I tell them something?
Oh boy.
About when I'm older? If I get a YouTube channel when I'm older, guess what it might be?
What?
Animal Talk.
Animal Talk.
Mhm.
Animal Talk with Tova. That's perfect.
Or it might be
Galloping Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Chicken Talk with Tova. Okay, go back to pulverizing your feed. Yeah, I hope that my kids can have the same sort of memories with their horses that I did, without the near-death experiences that I had, because I had a lot of them. It was just just such a great way to, I mean, looking back, it taught me so much. And somebody just asked if I ever took Poco to a buck clinic. No, I didn't start riding with Buck till after Poco had passed. So he died in 2012. The first time I rode with Buck was in 2013, so it was a year later. And but I met Jason, and Jason and I's second date, we went on a trail ride. So I'm like, let's see how you do. So we went and, hey Toph, could you not bang on that right next to the camera though, because it's picking up the noise. So take it elsewhere and do it, okay? So Jason and I went out. I think I had Miss Kitty at the time. Yeah, I had already bought Miss Kitty by then. So I was riding Miss Kitty, and I put, what? Yeah, I bought her because we had sold her for a short period of time. That's another story. So I was on Miss Kitty. I might have been on Missy. I don't remember. I used to ride Miss Kitty's mother a lot too. She was really fun to ride. But so Poco was really good. He was always really good for beginners. And I've said this in other videos. Like when I was 12, I started giving riding lessons to neighborhood kids, and I would just go over to their houses and give them lessons, and they would come over to our place and stuff. So I mean, he was really good for beginners in a sense that he was real quiet, and we just kind of follow another horse, and he never tried to do anything. Like he'd never try to you know, turn around and go home or stop and eat grass or anything like that. He just kind of kept following everybody. So but anyway, so Jason and I go on this trail ride, and I'm like, okay, let's see if you can ride. Well, oh my gosh, my husband looked like he hadn't ridden. I mean, he'd been on a horse a couple times, but he's never actually like learned how to ride. And I just explained a few things to him, and he just had it. Like he figured it out. And he's just like, okay, cool. And we had the best ride. We went running through my great-grandparents' field. There's a lot of, just a big stretch of property, and we just went booking down there, and he's just like, wow, this is really fun. And I was super impressed that he could actually like hang, you know. So that was really cool. Jason proposed to me on Poco, and so that was really special. Jason and I went to a ton of horse shows together, and he got to compete on Poco a little bit, and that was pretty amazing. So he's a very special horse. I'm guessing that over the years, I probably taught at least, I bet you Poco taught at least 600 people how to ride, like beginners. I kind of figured it out one day, and that was sort of my rough calculation. It's at least 600 people learned to ride on that horse. So, Poco was in a movie. If you haven't seen the movie Catfish, check it out. It's kind of weird. And let me tell you that, so a client of mine asked me, they're like, we have some friends from New York that are here. Could they come and video our daughter's lesson? And I'm like, sure, great. And they said hey, Tova, don't take the bark off the tree. It's not good for it. Don't do that. But you can, she's got a hammer. She needs to build something. But she says, yeah, they're going to make a documentary. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's fine. And so when they got to the barn, they had me sign a form. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they look, you know, they're totally like city slickers. And, you know, white pants, like capri style for guys. Like that wasn't something that, you know, that's not something that you see in our area. You know, they're definitely not country boys. Okay. But they were all excited to be at the barn, and I signed this paper saying it was okay for them to make a documentary, you know, of the footage that they took at the barn. And I'm like, cool, you know, whatever. So while the lesson was going on, and they got like big camera gear, like the real deal. And they're doing all these different things like running around. What?
On my wall.
You what? What did you find?
Foam.
Foam? Oh, good job, buddy. Put it in the trash. Cody hates litter. He's always picking up litter. That's good. But so, and then I look and like the mom is talking to the one guy. I think there were 3 guys that came. And the mom's talking to the one guy and she's crying. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So I'm like, huh, well, that's kind of weird. So fast forward, then I didn't see them for, well, no, I did see them a few more times after that, and they talked about how they made a documentary and blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, cool, that's neat. So my nieces were both about 13 at the time, and this is maybe a year, maybe within a year after that happened. And, oh, let me say this too. So after the lesson, these guys, they're like, hey, do you have the time or opportunity to take us out on a trail ride? And I'm like, oh, no, I can't. You know, I have another student coming and it's too late for me to cancel her. I said, but if you're ever to the area again, definitely let me know. I'd be happy to take you on a trail ride. So I was really bummed out that I didn't find a way to make that work out for them, because it would have been a good experience. You guys aren't allowed to bicker when I'm on camera, okay? No, you can't. We can't. If they're wet, head in the house and change your gloves.
No.
Okay. What do you need?
Lola said, I'll let her go, and then you can go catch
No,
her again.
no fighting. Okay, no fighting. So, anyway, so time passes. I take my 2 nieces. They're with me for the weekend, and I'm, hey, let's go to a movie. So we go to the movie, and I forget what we went to go see, but it was sold out. And they're like, oh, well, the movie Catfish, we kind of want to see that too. And I'm like, okay, let's go see that. We're sitting there watching this movie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys in this movie are the guys that came to my parents' farm when I was giving a lesson. And then, like, I don't know how far into the movie, but I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Poco, and there's me. And my nieces both look at me, and they're like, Aunt Brandy? And I'm like, I guess, you know, I'm in a movie. Let me tell you, when you're not expecting to see yourself on a movie screen, or your horse, and then all of a sudden you're there, that is a weird feeling. Very, very strange. That's what I just said, baby. Glad we're all caught up. So, yeah, it was just the wildest thing ever, but it was so cool. I'm so glad that that experience is there. And I would really love to. I actually reached out. The movie is about, it's actually about Facebook.
Mommy, Louise is going to be installed too.
Okay. It's actually about Facebook, and it's pretty, you just need to watch it. It's probably on, I don't know if it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, but you just do me a favor, watch the movie Catfish, and if you watched it, comment below and let me know what you thought, okay? So, but it's just kind of a crazy, it's a very interesting, very, very interesting movie. So, it's on Netflix, Beck says. Okay, cool, it's on Netflix. So I actually reached out to Neve. He's the one who did the documentary, and I tried to email him anyway to see if I could, like, I want to be able to show that part on my channel. You know, I think that would be really cool. So, and just kind of, you know, this is a while ago that I messaged him. So maybe somehow this video could get to Neve Schumann, and he would be willing to let me, like, do that. But anyway, it's very strange. So it's the actual movie though, because there was like a mini series that they did too. But watch the actual movie. That's where you'll see it. So and then the student of mine that was in the movie, gosh, I haven't seen her in years. So yeah, it was just crazy experience. So Poco, I'll have to do a video just on like all of his random incidents that he had. Like I said, he was like Eeyore, like how his tail always fell off. And he just had really weird things that would happen to him. And he was always very healthy, but just randomness would happen to the poor guy. So I'll do a video sometime just talking about all of those funny things and share those things with you. But we bought our farm in 2010, and it was the very end of September. So let's say October 1st, we moved into the farm. That's about when the horses came, was October 1st, I think. So Poco was the very first horse in the pasture, and I insisted that he be the first horse. So, Bodie, hey, 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 no, you put that on your head. Bodie just came pedaling over here with his bike helmet on his handlebars. It's not on his head. So, oh, he's bringing it over at least. Put it on your head. You don't ride your bike without your helmet. And then Miss Kitty, and then Nika. So that's the order of the horses that walked onto the property. Now, Jason deployed a month after we bought the farm. And when he came home from deployment, he was gone for a year. When he came home from deployment, Poco had had his whole life, pretty much. If anything changed with Poco's world, he would kind of internalize it almost. So like we would go to an event, so say I went to stay at the state fair for the week. The first day, Poco would have diarrhea. Or if we just went to a horse show, or it was a new environment, or oh my gosh, if we went somewhere and we didn't bring water from home, he didn't want to drink the water. So we'd have to bring water from home, or it would take him a long time to want to drink. So he kind of always had a finicky stomach about things. And if we got new hay for the year, so like from the same fields, it just happened to be that year's crop, he would always have diarrhea from that. And he would also like not want to eat the new bags of feed. Like the grain would have to be put into the grain bin, or feed would have to be put in the feed bin and sit there for a couple days before he'd actually want to eat it. So he was always really, really, really picky. And he was on a probiotic, but it was very strange. And we had him, and then he would pass gas and a little liquid would come out. And I talked to multiple vets numerous times, and it was,
When I was going through the deep part of the river, then I found stuff and then
so it was hard because it was like nobody could really, like everybody that had kind of looked at him, they're like, well, it's just how he is, you know. I'm like, okay. So I just really, like, I tried and I couldn't figure out anything to do for it. But he spent that like most of his life, if not all of it. And I just remember it being like a thing. So like he didn't mind being trailered. He was really good being in a stall. He didn't mind being in a stall. It was just like, it's like, oh, my world just changed. Now I'm like, it upset his stomach or something. So it was normal for that to happen. And sometimes it would happen for a few days. So like if I got new hay or something, it was just typical of him. And it was July 2012, and I was pregnant with Tova, and I was due August 14th, so, or August 15th or something like that. And so here I have a fair amount of stress because, you know, I'm about to have a baby, and Poco gets a bout of diarrhea. And I wasn't worried about it. A couple days goes by, and he'd had it like, sometimes it, you know, it had even lasted a week. So I just really wasn't very worried about it yet. But it continued, and when it continued for longer, I got really worried because I'm like, this is not normal. And we treated him for, hey bud, hey, we don't dump things right there because it's just going to make a huge mess. Okay, you take it over in the yard and give it to the chickens. But the last time he was ridden was the end of July. Like he was still like in good spirits and everything. He was a pretty happy dude. So we kept bringing him in, but it was like, okay, well, he's gonna, you know, when he poops, stay out of the way because it's gonna be messy. And by the end of July, I was just like, we can't ride him anymore.
he's clearly like, we can't, and I had already had a vet out to look at him, and they just couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And I had 3 vets that eventually all looked at him, and it was like, well, let's try this. Don't give him too much water. You know, don't give him this. Oh, let's try giving him that. He was on, I think it was kaopectate. Oh my gosh, I was giving him so much of that. I'm pretty sure that was the anti-diarrhea just from like Walgreens. He was getting tons of probiotics. He was getting so much stuff. And then he got really fussy, like he didn't want to eat certain things. So same sort of stuff I was going through with Miss Kitty. It was very apparent. Sorry, now I'm distracted. The cats are playing. Clover just ran halfway up a tree and then realized that she's too chubby to do that. But, I mean, it was like I was doing everything I could. And I have a friend who has Crohn's disease, and she had mentioned to me that beets really bothered her. And I'm like, I wonder if he's got some sort of like intestinal or stomach issue and certain foods are bothering him. He was getting beet pulp. So I stopped giving him beet pulp. Well, actually, I didn't stop giving it. He stopped eating it. And then I was panicking because I'm like, what can I feed him? You know, he won't eat anything. So I was alternating, just like I did with Miss Kitty, I was alternating between, you know, several different types of feeds, like what are you willing to eat? And he just really didn't want to eat. And then, you know, he was to a point by then where he couldn't be out with the herd because he needed to be able to eat 24/7, and they would just gobble up whatever he had. So it was so sad because I felt so bad for him because he really liked being with the herd. He was always everybody's friend. Like he never, he didn't put up with anything really, but he just never caused any issues. He's a lot like Nika in that sense, and like how he is in the thing. And that's how he was. Like he didn't let anybody pick on him. So I put him by himself. And then he was just sad. He was so sad being by himself. So then I started putting Miss Kitty with him during the day. And at 4 o'clock every day, Miss Kitty would go with him. And so she'd stand at the gate and wait. And then he was all happy that he got to see Miss Kitty because they were good buddies, really good buddies. Like, that's the only horse that Miss Kitty really liked. Except for when she was young, there was a couple horses that she was pretty attached to, my mom's, but she loved Poco. So, but Tova was born August 14th, and so here I got this brand new baby, and I can't tend to my horse the way I want to. And Jason was doing everything he could to care for, and I had postpartum depression pretty bad. So he's trying to deal with me and the baby and the horse that's dying and run the whole, and I had some complications after having Tova, so I really couldn't be outside. And it was really a rough time. So, but when I could finally be out here a little bit, like I would just hand feed him. And he'd take stuff out of my hand, and I'd sit there, I got my baby, you know, in the little pack on my chest, and I'd hand feed him. And then when I could finally be out, I'm like, okay, like I need to, I got this baby thing under control. We're working on this. So that by this time it was like the end of August. So he had been on 2 months of straight diarrhea. And we just kept his tail braided, and like the barn kids would give him baths, wash him up real good, and he loved that. He loved all the time. But it's like, we can't get this diarrhea to stop. So the vet ended up, I had one vet telling me, let's keep trying to figure out what's going on. There's got to be something. So, because I'm like, okay, we're into August, the end of August. We're coming to winter. He's losing weight. I can't let him go into winter like this. And he's like, don't think about putting him down yet. Let's just try to figure out what's going on. And then I had another vet say, you know what? She said, let's try giving him dexamethasone. It's a steroid. And she said, if this makes his poop solid, there's a good chance it's inflammatory bowel disease or something of that nature. I'm like, okay. So I gave it to him. No joke. like 12 hours later, he had solid poop, like totally normal poop. And we're like, oh, thank goodness. So, I mean, we had a party in the barn, I swear, because I would bring him in during the day and he'd just kind of hang out, and like kids would brush him and we'd hang out with him just so he wasn't alone. Because he was in where Manzer, that paddock that Manzer's in right now, that's where he was when he was by himself. So I would try to bring him in whenever I was in there so he could just get some socialization. And then since I was outside so much then at that point, so the whole month of September and October, Poco was loose. I just left him loose in the yard, and he just wandered, because grass was really the only thing that he would eat, besides like grain that I would hand feed him, and he would really only nibble at it by that point. Yeah, she is. So I would have people like come to the barn, and they're like, did you know there's a horse loose out there? I'm like, oh yeah, that's Poco. Or even like one of the other students or something, they'd be like, oh, that's Poco, you know, and people just knew, like the UPS guy even knew that that's Poco. And he's just doing his thing, and he'd wander up to the barn and he would get a drink, and then he'd wander back. Like he just kind of would. It was so fun because we'd have the arena open, and he'd be over in my yard, or he'd be here or there, and he couldn't get into any, I mean, he didn't want to get into any grain or anything, so it wasn't a big deal. Yeah, we got to hit 100 likes today, guys. We're at 91. You got to get that up. And I got to tell you this too. I'm at like 12,900 and something subscribers. I really want to see 13,000 really soon. It's really hard for me to see, like, it's so close to the next number. So you guys help me out with that if you would, please. I really appreciate that. But so Poco was really good about, like, he knew where the water sources are, and he would just come up and visit. Like, he'd be wandering around the yard, and there'd be like a puddle in the yard, and he'd go over and drink in the puddle. And then he'd wander up to the arena, and he'd kind of just stand there and hang out. Some days he'd wander into the arena, like I got my tack up area, and then I've got like the arena itself. Some days he'd want to be in the actual arena part and just sit there. Like I'd be giving lessons, and he would just come and stand in the middle of the arena with me. And it is what it is, you know, but I let him do whatever he wanted. And so that's what kept him alive the last couple months, is the grass. Like that was the only thing that he would eat. What? So, and Tova and I would come out and just sit in the yard with them, and Louise is on top of the stalls, if you can't hear that. It's okay, honey, I believe you. I see her from here. She's fine, she'll get down. But I have videos, and I'll share these with you guys someday, but
I'll be ready to catch her at the door.
okay. I have video of me and Tova just sitting there, and Poco's just eating grass, and we're just hanging out. That's it. And that was really all I could do. So I had a lesson one day with an older gal. And it's like kids say things in a manner that's honest, and
She's a flyer.
she is a flyer. Kids are honest and innocent.
Green door!
Don't do that again.
I'm in a gate!
Kids are also horrendously annoying sometimes. Guys, hey,
wanna do some-
hey, screen time. Screen time. Yeah, walk away. No, walk away. Walk away. Walk away. So, but adults have a way of saying things that are just, they don't think before they talk a lot of times. And where kids, they just say things out of just sheer honesty, and it's innocent. But this gal says, oh, that horse is way too skinny. Poco was standing in the shelter in the sun, just hanging out there. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And, you know, she's like, well, that's just not right. And I'm like, I'm not. Tova, could you guys maybe go, I want you to go this way.
We're playing in the barn.
Guys, please be quiet, okay? But, so anyway, and I just like burst into tears. I'm just like, oh my gosh, here this gal's here taking a lesson and she's accusing me of starving my horse. But it was horrible. And, you know, she understood afterwards, you know, what was going on because I made sure to explain it. But I'm like, for crying out loud, you know, like I'm like, am I really that, do you really think that I would starve a horse? When you see all the horses that I have and what I do and how much I care about them, I mean, do you really think that I'd just let one starve? Because, yeah, that one we just put by himself and let him starve. But it was just terrible. I was so crabby about that. So, November rolls around and we had a kids. Oh. November rolls around and we can't keep using yeah, like so here's the thing, like if a kid had been like, why is that horse so skinny? I would have been like, oh, well, this is why. Because they genuinely want to know things, but adults like to immediately like point blame, and that's how it works. So my kids are being really loud, and I'm gonna go and kick them out of the barn. I'll be back.
Can I just get my bike?
Yep, take your bike.
I'll grab one.
Okay. There are times when it's great for the kids to be in the videos, and then there are times where they're being disrespectful and not understanding that they can't be doing what they're doing when I'm trying to have a conversation. So, I'll see you guys in just a little bit. That and Bodie was like scaling the wall in there. Did you guys see him like trying to climb up into the rafters to save the chicken? So, but anyway, the thing with Poco is with the dexamethasone that we were giving him, the whole thing with that is it can't be long term. It's a steroid, it's not good for them. So that will also hurt other organs. So I had to try to wean him off of it, and as soon as we would get down to like 8 cc's, he would have diarrhea again. So he had to have the full dose of it in order to have solid stool. So he was on it for a while, and it just, we knew that it was not, it was just a Band-Aid basically. It wasn't going to fix anything. So one day in November, it was November 10th, and I had some of my barn girls here. I was in the house with Tova. She was, 3 months old by that point. And they said, Poco's laying down in a stall. And that was not like him. He would never lay down in a stall. And it was the first stall in this barn. And it wasn't muddy in the paddock, where in the fall it usually is. It hadn't really started to rain or snow or anything yet. It was a really warm, sunny November day. It was a beautiful fall day. And it was just really strange. They're like, yeah, he's laying down in that stall, where he could have laid outside in the sun. And I'm like, that's not right. Well, he was on his way out, and he just kind of decided to lay down, and that's where he was going to die. And so we had to get him out of the stall. And so Jason got a toe strap, and we got it around, toe straps real wide and flat. And then we had his lead rope. So I think I had his head, and Jason had basically the toe strap around his whole body.
Are you still talking about Poco?
I am. So we kind of heave-hoed and lifted and pulled him out of the stall. and he just laid right outside of the stall. And his breathing was starting to slow down, and you could just tell that he was shutting down. He didn't appear to be in any pain. He just was like, yeah, I'm gonna go now. So I called the vet, and he was, luckily, he was the only vet we had in our area at the time. And so whenever he was gone, it was like, we are stuck. We have nobody. So this vet happened to be on his way home from hunting camp, and was able to stop by on his way home, and he was able to euthanize him. So he passed right in the corner of that paddock, and he died at like 3:30 in the afternoon. And so my parents came over, and they were with Tova, and Jason didn't want me to have to be part of burying him. So the girls that were here and we braided his mane and his tail, and we cut everything off to save for later. And yeah, and the vet, when he did put him down, it was super peaceful. Like, Poco was already, like, he'd already decided that was the time, and so he was already incredibly calm and like on his way. So he just sedated him and then euthanized him. So it was very, very quiet. And like, really? No.
What?
I asked you guys to go that way a while ago. Okay? So after we took off his mane and tail, and Jason said, I'm going to, we contacted my brother, who worked for a company that had a backhoe, and we got that here, and I went in the house, and I just stayed in the house. But before I went up to the house, Miss Kitty was standing at the gate waiting, because every day at 4 o'clock she got to go into Poco, and she stood there and waited. And when Jason pulled him out of there with our side-by-side, he pulled him right where I'm sitting now, pulled him across here. And then, remember where I showed you guys where Miss Kitty's buried? Well, Miss Kitty saw him, and she followed the whole fence line all the way back, and she watched them bury him. And the way Poco landed in the hole, Jason wasn't happy with that. And so he climbed down in there, and he made sure that he was laying a certain way, because he knew that would be important to me. And as soon as they got him buried, it started pouring, and they almost got the backhoe buried back there, because it's near a swampier area, but it was the only option. So, and we had talked about where to bury in advance, so we knew where we were going to put him. But so since that day, just driving that backhoe back there and having to get caught in all that rain tore up that area really horribly. So so we were really concerned when Miss Kitty went, oh, great, where are we gonna do this? But anyway, so that's how that all worked out. We really don't know for sure what it was, besides the vet saying, well, since his stool is firm after giving him the dexamethasone, this is what I think it is. So I told a bunch of my barn girls where he was buried, and I couldn't go back there for a while. I don't think I went back there until spring. I'm pretty sure it was springtime before I went back there. So 6 months later. And I'm pretty sure it was his birthday, which is today, that I went back to visit him. And the girls had made a heart out of rocks to mark his grave. So that was very sweet. So, I do regret not being there when we buried him. And that was a good life lesson for me, because he's the first horse that I ever lost. And it's been 8 years, and I still can't handle talking about him. But, it's just different, a heart horse is, so special. And it's just different. It's very different. Like, Miss Kitty was special to me. I had her forever, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, I adored her, but it's not the same. So, so that's one thing that I know my husband was extremely respectful and buried him exactly how I would have wanted. And my brother thought he was nuts for climbing down in the hole with the horse, as like the whole thing's like caving in because it's starting to rain. But, ouch, Kitty. But he would do that stuff for me, and that's why I married him, is because that's how he is, and he's a wonderful person. I really wish that I had been there, because I feel like even with like Miss Kitty and the other horses that I've assisted with burying, like it's closure to see it and know how they are. It's closure. So from this point forward, like anytime I lose a horse, I will be there for the entire process that I can, because I need that. But he was so special. And it just, when Miss Kitty started getting sick, I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to go through this again. And then I got to tell you this too, like, and you're going to see these videos because I still have a lot to share from part of her issues. But there was one day, she came in and she laid down in stall one. And I'm like, and I thought that she was going to die at that moment. And I'm just like, immediate, like, I'm like, I can't handle you dying in this stall. I cannot handle you going down in this stall. So it's like, because, and then I got to tell you this too. So stall one is like, there's like some bad juju going on with stall one, because we had a German Shepherd named Tonka, and he got really sick, and he actually died from bloat, but he had a pretty severe heart condition. And I just was letting him walk around the yard, and I just followed him. And this was a couple years after Poco died, and he walked into stall one and he laid down in stall one. I'm like, what is it with stall one? Why is everybody? So when Miss Kitty went down, I'm like, no. But it's just, I don't know, it's really weird. But so that is the story of Poco and how we lost him. So he was 26 when he died. Miss Kitty was 26 when she died. So almost 27 at least. But so yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do for a video today, but since today is Poco's birthday, I almost feel like I should go back and at least just visit him, even though I was just there not too long ago. But so I'm happy that him and Miss Kitty are buried by each other. I'm so glad that we were able to make that work out, because that really meant a lot to me. Okay, any other questions? So Poco was born in 1986, so he would have been what? Oh gosh, in his 30s already. Crazy. So yeah, so 26 is a good age, I guess. And that's the thing, is like, I have a lot of video of him, and I don't have a single video of him up, like where I actually show him, because just looking at his, just looking at videos of him makes me sad. So make up your mind if you want to be up or down. But I will show you videos of him, because I think it's important for everybody to get to see him, because he was so wonderful. And he taught so many people so many good things. He was awesome. So he's also, he is 100% the foundation of my program. Had I not had, I think about that, like if that one horse hadn't come along in my life, think of all the things that may not have happened. You know, what if I would have ended up with a horse that was maybe that scared me, made me lose my confidence? Maybe I wouldn't have wanted to do what I'm doing. But he made all that possible for me. He made me want to do all that stuff. So I 100% firmly believe that I'm doing what I'm doing because of him. So, yeah. So I'll show you something. We'll take a little walk in here. So, Poco and Nika got along extremely well too. I hope you guys can still hear me, but you guys see my halters here? Look at, I haven't moved Miss Kitty's yet. And I had one of these for Poco, and I took it down, and it's the day he died, I took it off the wall, and it got put in a bin along with his forelock and mane that I took off, and I have not looked at it since. So I still, to this day, haven't done that because it's hard for me. And so Poco's halter is right there on the wall. And I need to take Miss Kitty's halter, and I'm going to hang that up here. And I'm going to take Poco's name tag eventually and put it up here somewhere, and then I'll do the same thing with Miss Kitty's. So that's my, yeah, this is kind of my just my wall for that, and I have my dog's collar here too. So, because Tonka was like the barn dog, so that's why I have his collar here. My little dog that I lost, hers isn't there, but she was not, she wasn't a barn dog, it was just different. So, all right, guys. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do for tomorrow's video, but I'm going to get some horses fed and go do something with my kids since I evicted them from the video today. They're kind of sad about that because they want to, they love to be part of these videos. So they know that they're in trouble for, you know, not listening, but so they're sad now. But Lilia wants me to ride Muffin tomorrow. We'll see, maybe I will. Maybe that would be fun. Muffin is pretty awesome. I haven't had the opportunity to ride her. So, but hopefully I have a microphone tomorrow. I really hope that we have that all figured out. Jason says he's got to figure it out, so I'm really hoping. And yeah, so, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any further questions that I didn't answer anything, feel free to leave me a comment down below. And thank you so much for the 132 likes. And if you guys could help me get to that 13,000 subscriber mark, I like to do that. Like, I want to see how fast I can hit that. So I want to get there. But thank you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.